Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the MakeCode Arcade live stream. I'm Richard, at Richard on the forum.
I'm Joey, at JWanderl on the forum.
And I'm Vivian, at Liftyourful on the forum.
And why is today very special, guys?
Because it's Sucromon week.
Yes, it's Sucromon week. Yay. So we promised this last week, but we are going to be making a monster collecting game. And we have specifically decided that the name of this game is going to be Sucromon, which might sound super weird, but I've given a little breakdown here. Sucromon is sucrose, sugar, plus monster. So sucrose is a type of sugar. And the idea is that these monsters that we're going to be collecting are all going to be dessert themed. So we're going to be making a game where you walk around, you get into battles with random monsters, you have the opportunity to catch them, and you're able to raise them and have them battle against each other. We've had a lot of people try to make games like this on the forum, and usually they're a bit too, they drop off because they get stuck or they don't really see how to do it in blocks or in text. So we're hoping that this week you'll be able to watch all of our videos from the Arcade Advanced stream and make your own game and customize it however you want. But I'm going to be taking on day one of our Sucromon game.
You're the foundation.
Did I leave anything out? Yes, I'm the fondant that is supporting the cakes made by everybody else. Yes.
I feel like maybe you're the egg.
Those dowels that they put in the layer cake to make sure that it actually stands up.
Yeah. Or maybe you're just the cake, right? Holding everything.
I'm something that is holding something else. I think we can all agree on that. All right. So, first thing, before I get started, let's talk a little bit about the extensions we're going to be using. So we might be using more than this in the final game, but these are the ones we're going to be using today. And so I'm going to go ahead and add them right now. The first one is Arcade Text, which you've probably seen us use on stream before. We just used that for adding some text sprites to the game. This one was made by Daryl, who is not here today, but is here in spirit.
I hope he's happy about this.
So that added the text sprite category. Let's go ahead and add the next one, which is going to be Joey's PXT status bars. Joey is on the stream today, but he is not here in spirit.
No, Joey, where's your spirit?
It's right there.
Yeah.
That's a ghost.
So, yeah, you don't actually have to type anything in for this one. You can just scroll down and get it. So I'm going to add status bar.
Congratulations, Joey. You made it to the big time.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. All right, the next one is one made by me. And this one's going to be at Rick Knoll / Arcade Story. By the way, I'm Richard, not Rick.
Why do you keep on calling yourself Rick Knoll?
It's my GitHub username, but that was originally also my name on the forum, but then everyone kept replying to me as Rick. And I was like, no, I'm Richard. So I changed my forum name to be Richard.
Shouldn't it be like Rhino?
Yeah, everyone thinks it's Rick, though. Everyone thinks that my name is R-I-K, I guess.
Can I call you Rhino instead? Would that make you happy?
You may not. All right, so we added that one. So now we have the story category also, and I'll explain the blocks we're using from this as we kind of code it. And let's add the last one, which is the arcade sprite data, which is down here. It's the duck with a number. And this one doesn't add a category. It just adds a bunch of blocks to the sprites category down here at the bottom. These guys. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and move this off to the side. And let's start with kind of what we're going to be coding today. And so I have prepared a little example of what it should look like. Yeah, unlike most of our streams where we do everything on the fly, I actually did some preparation for this one.
There we go.
There we go. So, what do we have here? We have a Sucromon named Donut, which is a terrible name that I made up, but I like it a lot. And so the first thing we're going to be doing is kind of creating this little sprite package. So this is actually 3 sprites. We have the portrait up here, which is the donut. We have a health bar, which will be displayed during battles so that we can keep track of how healthy they are. And then we have their name just showing up. And yeah, going to try and build this today, and hopefully we get something that looks kind of like it. All right. let's talk about what Sucromon have. And you know what? This is actually going to correspond really well to that image I just showed you. Every Sucromon that we create is going to have these three things, and we're going to be adding more things to this list as the week goes on. But these are the three we're covering today. A portrait. We're going to make sure that all of them have a 32 by 32 pixel image. This is just to make it a little consistent, so that we don't have a bunch of different sized Sucromon. Yeah. They also have a name, which is a maximum of 8 characters. We're doing this just to make the layout easier. We don't have a lot of space on the arcade screen to show off text. So it was a very common practice in old video games to limit the number of characters in a name. I've played some terrible RPGs that only let you have 4 characters for your name, which is just really tough because I don't like being called Rick, as I've already mentioned. And that's what I have to be in that scenario.
Or Rhino.
Or Rhino.
I guess you can't be Rhino with only 4. Sorry.
Yeah, that's true. And then finally, health, which is the amount of HP that they have. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to create a function now called create Sucromon. And we're going to be creating a bunch of different Sucromon. So this is going to take in a number. First one is something that you're only going to see if you're in beta, which, by the way, I should have mentioned, we're using the beta editor here. So that's arcade.makecode.com/beta. And I'm going to go ahead and add an image argument. This is going to be the portrait. All right, next I'm going to add a string, or not, that's a sprite. We're going to add a string text, and this one is going to be called name. And we're going to add a number, and this is going to be health. And that'll do it. All right. So let's start creating our Sucromon. I'm going to create a variable, and it's going to be called new Sucromon. And we're going to set it to be a sprite, like this. So first thing we need to do is change this kind. We don't want it to be player. We want it to be Sucromon. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new one right now. And for the image, we can just go ahead and drag in this portrait. And now I'm going to take a brief break from this function to call it over here so that we can actually see this stuff being filled in while we're coding it. So let's go into the functions. Let's go ahead and call create Sucromon. By default, images are variables. So I'm going to go into the images category and drag out a image block to put in here. And for our test sprite, I'm going to use the donut because it is already 32 by 32 and it is a dessert, so it works. All right. For the name, I'm going to do donut. So I'm using all caps because I think it looks better in the arcade font. And then for health, 20.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter. Okay. So now that we're calling this, we can actually see the sprite we're creating. So that's it right up there, our new Sucromon. But we need to add the health bar next because that is what shows up underneath it. So to do that, we're going to go into the status bars extension and we're going to create a status bar. So I'm going to drag this out here. All right. So we want this to be a sprite, a status bar of kind health. That's good. That's what the default is. And we also need to attach it to our Sucromon sprite. So that's in here. We're going to go ahead and drag out the attach. Joey, do you want to explain a little bit what the attach does?
Yeah, it'll make it so the health bar moves around right next to the sprite, right? Like it's kind of like if you had the say bubble, like the sprite say, that comes out of the sprite. This is now attached to the sprite, so it'll be right above it.
Yeah. So we're attaching it, and you can already see that it started out in the middle of the screen, as all sprites do. But once we attached it, it actually moved up to top so that it wasn't in the way of the sprite. We don't want it there, though. We want it underneath because I think it looks a little bit better. And I don't know if this was an intended effect, but you can definitely do that by using this padding.
If you want, there's a better way. Under
what is it?
bars, there's a thing for that. So it's set. If you keep scrolling, set status bar position 2.
Oh, okay.
Bottom.
Let's do that. So we'll set the position to bottom.
That's part of why the padding's so confusingly named, because the padding is how far away in the given direction, and the offset is how far along the opposite direction, like opposite axis you are.
Cool. All right. So when I give this padding, it's going to, like Joey said, it's going to increase the distance from the sprite, if that makes sense. So if I set it to 0, we can see that it's right on top of the sprite, basically, or on bottom. But if I give it a bigger number, like 40, it's going to be off screen now, probably, because that was too high. Oh, no, there we go. It's down there at the bottom. I just want it to be a little bit off the sprite, so I'm going to use 2. And I'm also going to make it a bit wider. So let's make it 32 right now. Cool. Yeah, that looks better. So this is a nice green rectangle we've got. It's helpful to give it a label, though. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're going to use the classic RPG terminology and label it HP. There we go. So now we've got HP, we've got our bar, and it's attached to this sprite. And that's important because it's also going to make sure that we can re-get this sprite later. Inside status bars, there is a sprite bar kind attached to my sprite. So if I need to change the value of this HP or anything like that, I'll be able to get it again using that block. Okay, so we've got our status bar. We've got it labeled health. We're not actually using our health variable yet. So I'm going to go ahead and set the value. Sorry, were you going to say something, Vivian?
No, I just went, ooh, because I didn't realize. It's a good thought.
Yeah. So I think this health is going to be our max health. So I'm going to set it to be equal to the health. And I think that should work, yeah. But I think that we also need to set the value to be health, because it's working right now because the default is 100, but if it were greater than 100, like we gave them 150 health, it would be not enough. So we're going to set both the max health and the value to the health. All right, cool. We've got Donutso, got our HP, but is it Donutso? Because I can't see its name. And I think this is going to be a perfect time for us to introduce the next extension we added, which is the text sprite. By the way, we've got a lot of ground to cover in this week, so I might be going a little fast. I'm hoping that the recorded versions of these streams are going to be a little more useful than watching them live, just because you'll be able to slow them down. But I'll try to make sure I explain everything as I'm going. Okay, so we're going to create a label now, and let's go ahead and drag this out. So Daryl's not here to explain the text sprite. So Vivian, you want to give it a shot?
Oh, yeah. So the text sprites are just sprites, but they can have text inside them. So you can give it pictures and also words. And then you can move them around and manipulate them just like sprites, but with other features too.
Yep, that's exactly right. So we have our text sprite, and I put the name in here. So now we're creating this sprite. You can see this giant donutso that is in the center of our screen. That's a bit too big, I think. So by default, the text sprite uses one of our bigger fonts, which is our 12 by 12 font. Yeah, that's right. Arcade actually has different sized fonts. They're kind of tough to use in blocks, but they do exist. And since this one's a little too big, I'm going to go ahead and make it smaller by setting the max font height. And I'm going to use 8 because I like the 8 font better. And there we go. So our label right there. Okay. So it's right there, but it's not in the right position. And let's go ahead and figure out what the right position is. And I'm going to try and set this position using the kind of relative location to our Sucromon so that we are able to kind of make it consistent later. So I'm going to go ahead and grab out a set property block. Are you guys still there?
Yes. Sorry. This is my favorite block.
I am. The reason I asked was because it got really quiet, but I think both of you guys just muted.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So we're going to be setting the top And to do that, we want it to be the bottom of our Sucromon, plus a little bit of padding to get it past the status bar. So I'm going to go into math, and I'm going to grab an addition block. Drag that out.
Might be easier just to base it off of the bottom of the status bar, too.
I tried that, and it doesn't work.
Oh, weird.
The status bar does not give the correct values for left, right, top, and bottom.
Really? Okay, I'll look at that.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to change this to new Sucromon, and then the bottom.
New Sucromon
Put it right there.
It's a town.
It
To New Sucromon.
does, yes. And we can already see that it's moving to the bottom of our sprite. It's a little bit, it's overlapping with the other bar right now, though, so we want to add some more to it. We're adding and not subtracting because in Arcade, y goes down. So a positive value will move us farther down. A negative value would move us farther up. It's reverse of what you normally see in math. All right.
But the same direction as reading.
Yes. All right. So I added 8. And that seems actually pretty good. I think. But the X is messed up. And one thing we could do here is just make the X to be the same as the Sucromon X. But I actually don't think that looks very good. I think it looks better when it's left aligned with this status bar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the left to be the left of the new Sucromon. And we're going to subtract an offset to make sure that it lines up perfectly with this HP bar. And wow, that was pretty good right off the bat. Looks like 7 is the correct number. So 1 off. But we want to do left minus 7, and hopefully that will. Yeah, nice. Looks good. I don't like that this is 1 pixel too short, the status bar. So I'm going to go into the height up here, and I'm going to change this to 5. Hopefully that'll look a bit better. Cool.
This is so easy with extensions. I feel like we could have another monster game, but instead of Sucro monsters, we have extensions. Okay, extensions fighting against each other.
Yeah. All right. Cool. We've got Donutso. There's a problem, though. And that problem is that we have 3 sprites that kind of make up Donutso. The status bar is okay because it'll automatically move because we did that attaching thing that we talked about earlier. But the label won't. It won't move because it's its own sprite. So, for example, if I were to just grab a set position here, we were to set the new Sucromon position to 0, 0, we'll see that the status bar and the portrait move, but the label is left behind. And so to do that, we need to move both of them together at the same time. And the easiest way to do that is to make sure that we keep a reference to this text sprite. So to do that, I'm going to use the third extension we added, or the 4th, I guess, which is Arcade Sprite Data. I'm going to go into Sprites, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. And the Arcade Sprite Data is great because it lets you store a bunch of different things on the sprite. You can store an image, you can store numbers, strings, booleans, and other sprites. And that's what I'm going to be using here. In this case, I want to store the label for the name so that if I need to get it back, I can just use this other block and just pass in label here, and I'll be able to get the sprite again to set its position. So let's go ahead and do this right now. Gonna change this item to be new Sucromon. I want the data to be label, and I want the sprite to be this text sprite here.
I think it's my favorite extension. So
yeah, I think it is my favorite extension too. It's pretty useful, especially for this game. We're going to be using this extension a ton in this game. Okay, so it's attached. It's stored now, but that isn't going to automatically move it for us. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function called move Sucromon that will take in a sprite and an X and a Y, and will do all of the moving for us at the same time. So let's go ahead and create that function. So it's going to take in a sprite, which is going to be the Sucromon. And then it's going to take in two numbers, X and Y. It's going to set it to that position. Okay, so moving the Sucromon itself is pretty easy. It's just like we did before. We're going to go out into Sprite. We're going to drag out a set position. And we're going to set the Sucromon position to be X and Y. And again, it's helpful to do this while you're writing code to actually call your functions, so that you don't just write a bunch of code blind. So I'm going to go ahead and put this here. And I'm realizing a problem right now, which is that I don't have a reference to Donutso to pass into this my sprite. I could pass new Sucromon, but then as soon as I make another Sucromon, this new Sucromon variable is going to be overridden, and that's going to be a problem. But luckily, there's another feature in beta that is going to save us here, and that is return values. Woo!
Yay! I'm sorry you can't see us.
I do wish I could see you guys. I need to get my monitor set up so I can do that. All right. So return values let you return something from your function. This is one of the most requested features from PXT and MakeCode, so I'm glad that we finally got it in. But I'm going to go ahead and drag out this return block, and I'm going to put in this new Sucromon so that it gets returned from this function. So as soon as you have a return block in a function, if you go back to the functions category, you'll now see that the function shows up twice. Shows up as this normal call block that we usually use, which is the call create Sucromon. There's another round one, and this round one will return the value that we pass right here. So I'm going to move this one out of the way. I'm going to create a new variable called Donutso. And we're going to set Donutso to be a call to that function. So let's go ahead and drag this one out. So we're going to set Donutso to create Sucromon with the donut image, the name Donutso, and again, I'm just making up the number 20. Seems fine though, right?
I think so. It's healthy, but not amazing.
Yeah. All right. And I'm going to change this variable right here to be Donutso. So now it should actually get called. All right, cool. Let's go back to our move function. So when we set the position to be X, Y, we also need to set the position of the label. Luckily, I already wrote that code. So let's go ahead and drag this out. There's one thing though, which is I can't use this text sprite variable. And the reason I can't is because the text sprite is, well, one, it's very angry at me. But the main reason is because the text sprite, again, is a local variable to this function. As soon as I create another Sucromon, this text sprite is instead going to be pointing at the label for that one. But that's why we stored it on the sprite itself using the sprite data. Because now, if I need to get back the label, I can just go into Sprites, go down to the data part, and get the data as Sprite. Let me go ahead and put this in here. And change item to be the Sucromon. And we're going to change the name so that it is label, because it needs to match what I put in over here. And let's do the same thing there. And now with this, we should see the label move to the right place. Cool. All right. We got Donutso. Let's give Donutso a friend. We're going to create our next fake Sucromon for testing. The reason I say fake is just because We're actually, right now, everyone on our team is working on their own little sprites, and we're going to have a bunch of monsters in the final game. We're probably just going to use test sprites while we're actually coding the game, and then we'll go back in and kind of put them all in at once, just because that's going to take a lot of time, and it's not going to be very exciting to watch on stream. But it will make a really cool game at the end, so we're pretty excited about it. So for our second Sucromon, which sprite should I use? It's got to be a dessert, I think, and it's got to be a 32 by 32. So I think our options are the cake or the ice cream.
I like the cake.
All right, let's do cake. All right, since you chose cake, you need to come up with a name for it.
Caker. Caker, yeah.
Not the best, but
What? It's a fighting type. It cakes you / kicks you.
All right. So you got the name Caker. Let's go ahead and move it so that's kind of at the other part of our battle screen. So this one is at 30. So I want it to be at the right of the screen minus 30. So that's 160, which is the width of the screen, minus 30. So 130 should make it so it's the same distance. There we go. Got Donetto on our left versus Caker on our right. And sorry, what was that?
I love Caker. I will fight for Caker.
All right, Caker might make it into the final game.
Okay.
Okay, so this is good. We've got our sprites kind of shown up, and we've also kind of got a way for us to set the values of our sprites in the future. And to make that kind of clear, I'm actually going to start storing the rest of the properties on here. So now, right now, we're storing this label as data, but I also want to store its name so that I'm able to reference it in the code, because the text sprite is great for showing things, but you can't actually read the text from the text sprite. So we also need to store the name. And I'll show why in a second. So let's go into the sprites data again, and we're going to drag out another set data. But this time, we don't want sprite. We want to set it to be a string. A string is just a piece of text. You see, mainly in our UI, it's called text instead of string, but they're the same thing. String is kind of like the computer science way of referring to it. All right, let me go ahead and drag this one out here. And I'm going to put this up here so that all of our property setting is in the same place in the code. So I'll change item to be new Sucromon. I'm going to change the data name to be name. And I'm just going to set it to be the name. All right. Now we've got our two sprites, but I want to basically I want to do the start of a battle. So this is going to be the start of a random encounter. And this is why I added the story extension. And hopefully this will be pretty cool. So I was working on the story extension yesterday, and I added a new block that you haven't seen before if you've been watching our streams where we use this extension, and that is the print dialog. So the print dialog block is nifty because it'll let us print out some text at the bottom of the screen. So let me just kind of show what that looks like real quick. I'm going to put this to a wild, not wild like Oscar Wilde, wild like wild. Blank appears. Cool. So it's being printed down there. It's left aligned like dialogue should be. It's a little too high up though. Actually, I think I'm just going to move these guys up because they're pretty. There's a lot of unused space here at the top of the screen. So for this Y, let's change it to be like 20. Is that too little? No, that's perfect.
Today's your day, Richard.
Yeah, I know.
Risky.
Yeah, I'm not even looking at my reference code, which I thought I was going to be, but I'm just guessing all the numbers correctly. All right. So I'm going to create a function that's going to be called start battle. So let's do that right now. And this is actually kind of a perfect example to show what makes the story extension pretty cool. And when I say it's pretty cool, I am entirely biased because I wrote it. But I do think it's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and print out two things. I want to have 2 pages of text. The first one is going to be a wild blank appears, and the second one is going to be, hello, this is a test to prove a point. So when I call this code, I'm not actually calling the function. That'll make it better. All right, call start battle. They're both printing at the same time, which is not useful to me. You can't even see a wild blank appears because the other text is longer, and so it's coming up first. I want to be able to print one and then the other, and that is what the story extension is really good at. This top block inside of the story thing is called QStoryPart. I'm going to drag it out, and now if I take it and I put this print dialog as the first one, and I drag out another story part right there. Now, if I wait for this code to run, it's going to print out a wild blank appears, then it's going to print out the next one. So this QStoryPart function is kind of neat because it lets you, it'll wait for whatever is happening inside of here to finish before it goes to the next one. You can even, if you want to do your own timing, not just something that is from the story, you can put a pause in there to make it pause too. That'll also. All right. So we want to start a battle, and we want to start a battle between 2 different Sucromon. So I'm going to edit this function, and I'm going to take in 2 arguments, which is going to be 1. First one's going to be my Sucromon. And the next one is going to be enemy Sucromon.
Sad.
I would name it friend, Sucromon? Punctuation in there.
Oh, sad.
So, yeah. And let's go ahead and call start battle with our 2 sprites that we've already cut. Oh, I'm assigning them to the same variable. Let me go ahead and make a new variable real quick for Caker. And do that. So this first one is going to be Donutso. The second one is going to be Caker. All right. So when the battle starts, we want to say a wild, and then the name of our enemy Sucromon appears. So right now I've just put in blank because I want to use that name. And to do that, I'm going to go into the text category and drag out a join block. So the join block is really nice whenever you want to put something that is not text inside of your text. If that makes sense. Or you want to make any kind of text on the fly. So I'm going to go ahead and start this out by saying a wild and then a space. Here is where I'm going to put the name. And then in the rest of the sentence is going to be another space and then appears with an exclamation point. Let me go ahead and put this in there. And now I want to get the name of the enemy Sucromon. Well, luckily I stored it as data on the sprite. So now I can just go into the sprites category, go all the way down to the data section, and read that data back as a string. So I can put it in here, change item to be enemy Sucromon, and then we'll change the data to be name. And let's watch. Cool. So it says a wild Caker appears. And if we were to switch this argument, it would say a wild Donutso appears, which is great, which means we can use this with any Sucromon now. We don't need to have anything hard-coded. All right, so after we say that a wild one appears, we want to go ahead and say, we want to send out our Sucromon and give it some words of encouragement. So let's go ahead and drag out another join block. And this one's going to say, go get 'em. Then the name of our party Sucromon, the my Sucromon. And then we're just going to put an exclamation point at the end.
Nice. With some heft.
A wild Caker appears. Go get 'em, Donutso. And cool. That's neat. I don't really like, though, how the sprites are just always there at the beginning. It would be nice if maybe that you just saw the kicker at first. Then when you said, go get them, the Donutso actually appeared. So to do that, I need to make these guys some way to make them kind of invisible and make them appear again. So I'm going to go ahead and make another function, and it's going to be called show or hide Sucromon. And it's going to take in 2 arguments. The first one is going to be the Sucromon, which is a sprite. The second one is going to be a Boolean, which is should hide. So if this is true, that means we want to hide the Sucromon. If it's false, that means we want to make the Sucromon visible again. Okay. So whenever you want to show or hide sprites, there's a really nifty way to do it. And that's in the sprites category. We have this block that sets flags. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this one out right now. And the flag that we're interested in this case, let me change the argument to be the Sucromon, is the one that's called invisible. And so if I set the Sucromon to be invisible and it says should hide, I can just put this in here, and if should hide is true, that means invisible will be true, so the Sucromon will be hidden. That's great, but we also need to hide 2 other sprites. If you remember, there are 3 sprites that make up our Sucromon. There's the portrait, the status bar, and the label. So we can hide the label, just like how we moved it in the Sucromon. I'm going to take out this and actually just duplicate this block here to get the label, and we'll set the invisible to be should hide. I think, though, I need to get rid of that and use the local one. All right. We also, though, need to hide the status bar. And so this was something that I kind of mentioned at the beginning, but we have a nice way to get our status bar back, which is this one right here. Status bar kind health attached to. No, wait. Yes, that's right. So this will give you the status bar of kind health that is attached to whatever sprite we pass here. Our status bar is of kind health, so this is perfect. I'm going to duplicate this block. Put this in here and change my sprite to be the Sucromon. And this will give us our status bar and set it to be invisible just like the other ones. And now, just to show that this works, I'm going to hide both of our Sucromon. So let's go into the functions, call show or hide Sucromon, and we're going to hide Donutso. Set that to true. And then we're also going to hide, oh, whoops, kicker. Set that to true. Cool, they're gone.
Sad.
It's sad, but don't worry. They won't be gone for long. Okay, so the first thing we want to happen in our little cutscene is we're going to have the enemy Sucromon appear. So I'm going to go ahead and drag out another Q story part, and we're going to call show or hide Sucromon, and I'm going to pass in the enemy. So now...
Should be false.
Oh, right. You're right. Yes. Now, cool. Kicker appears. Then we want to say this, a wild appears, and then go get him, Donutso. And then when that's done, we want Donutso to appear. So we're going to queue another story part, which is going to be show or hide. But this time, instead of enemy Sucromon, we're going to call my Sucromon. And let's watch this one. Awesome.
Do you feel like a director, Richard? Movie director?
Yeah, a little bit. I love doing cutscenes in games, which is the whole reason I made this story extension. It's just really nice for doing one thing after another, you know?
Yeah, those Sucromon have to listen to what you say. Show
Yes.
or hide.
All right. So this is nice. I don't know. Can you guys hear my audio?
No, we can't. Is there something
that's a shame.
happening?
Yeah, so the text extension actually makes little sounds as the characters get printed. But I wanted to do another audio thing, so I guess we'll have to do it next time when we do the music. We're going to actually have music in a game for once, which would be cool.
Do you want me to beep every time the text goes?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
It'll get old. Okay, I'll do it. It's going to get old quick, though, I think. Oh,
yeah, it'll be pretty quick.
I was surprised when you said yes.
All right, so we've got our battle kind of starting, and we've got our 2 Sucromon here. Let's go ahead, though, and actually make our menu. So this is going to be a menu of actions that we can kind of take in our battle. And I think there's going to be 4 options, which, you know what, let me go ahead and create another sticky to list them out. All right, so number 1 is going to be fight, which is going to allow our Sucromon to attack. The next one is going to be catch, so that we can catch the Sucromon. Next one is going to be run away, so that we can flee and tear. And then, can anyone think of a 4th one?
Item?
Yeah, or switch.
Yeah, let's do switch, because I'm not sure we're going to do items yet. In our monster collecting game, you're going to be able to have multiple monsters. So we're going to be able to switch between them. So let's go ahead and make the 4th one switch, like Joey said. And we're going to go ahead and create labels for all of these options right now. So we've got our start battle, but I'm actually going to be showing this function a bunch of times. I mean, I'm going to be showing this menu a bunch of times, so it makes sense to give it its own function for kind of creating it. So I'm going to go into functions, and I'm going to make a new one that is going to be called create battle menu. And it doesn't need any arguments. All right. And we're going to be using text sprites to do this. So let's go ahead and create a new text sprite, and we're going to give it a new variable, and it's going to be called fight. Fight menu. Bud. Item? Yeah, let's go with that. So we're going to set that to be a text sprite of kind fight. Well, with the words fight. And because this is not probably annoying to you guys, but because it's beeping in my ear.
I could make it annoying for us.
Mute the simulator. Oh.
It's all good. I'm just going to get rid of start battle for now. And in its place, I'm going to call the function I'm currently working on, which is create battle menu. All right, fight. Going to create another one. This one is going to be our catch menu item.
Catch.
Another one, which is going to be our run menu item.
I never use run. It is weak.
Yep, it's for cowards. Just kidding. They're perfectly valid times to run away from a fight.
Most
Right.
of them, actually. But no,
What? But then you-
because then you don't get the Sucromon.
Yeah. And you need the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How else are you gonna evolve from Donutso to Big Donutso?
Really worked hard on that one, huh, Joey?
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and create another one. And this one is going to be the switch menu item. This one's going to say switch. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and set a property on all of these. One thing, though, is I realize now that I'm going to be setting the same properties on all of these for all 4 of these items. So what might actually be easier is if I create a function for this. And this is going to be called create menu item sprite. And because all these menu items are the same, just the thing that's kind of changing is the text, I'm going to make it take in an argument that's going to be text. Okay, let's go ahead and drag this down here.
Nice.
And we're going to create a new variable. We're going to call it new menu item. And we're going to set it to be a text sprite of kind text. And now we need to set those properties I was just talking about. So first of all, this text is still too big. Let's go ahead and set the max font height to be the same as the other one we're using in our game, which is 8. So I'm going to go to new menu item, and we'll set the max font height to be 8. Also, I don't like how it's just kind of floating text right now. I want to give it a background color. So a nice thing about the text sprite category is that we can actually change the colors. So if I press this plus, I can change the foreground color. So we can see it's white, and the background color, which is this gray. Gray is transparency. So that's why it's just white text floating on the background right now. And I'm actually going to change this to be black, and I'm going to change the background to be white.
Fancy.
Yep, pretty fancy. All right. The next thing we also want to do is we want to give it some padding. So the padding will just make it so that it's not right on the text. And I'm going to give it a padding of 2. And now let's start calling this function just so I can see it. All right. So I also need to return this new menu item. So let's go and get a return block. Put it down here. And we want to return our new menu item. Okay, so now I'm going to get rid of all of these, which I spent so much time and effort copying and pasting.
Oh, but you're going to be so much faster at it now.
Yeah, and now we're going to grab this create menu item sprite. Remember, we want the round one, not the square one. All right, so this one's going to be fight. This one will be catch. Run. And switch. All right, and we can only see switch because it's the longest one. It's also the last one made, so it's on top. Okay, so let's go ahead and start positioning these guys. And to do that, I'm going to be using the just the normal sprite blocks because text sprites are actually just sprites under the hood. So I'm going to go into the sprite category, and I'm going to grab out Vivian's favorite block.
Yay. I need to hear everybody else's favorite block on stream, so it's recorded.
I think I said mine, but I don't remember what I said.
Oh, really? Is it your favorite? I also feel like the flag ones could also be my favorite. Those two are fighting in my heart right now.
All right, so I'm going to set the left to be 10 because that sounds okay. And the one that's going to be below fight is going to be switch, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for switch. So set the left to be 10. Now for catch, we want that one to be kind of on the right column. So I'm going to just set it to a random number. We're going to see how it looks, and then I'll adjust it. So catch menu item, we're going to set left to be 90. Should be a little bit more, but let's go ahead and fix the top so that we can actually see what's going on. So I'm going to set top to be pretty much where it's at already, which will be 60. Catch. And then for the switch, we want the top to be greater because we want it to be below the catch item. So we're going to change this to be switch, and then we're going to set it to be what, like 60 plus 90? I think 80 might be a little too close.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so fight switch. Now let's do run. So we're going to set the left for run to be 90 so that it's aligned with the catch item. And then we want to set the top to be 90. And oh, look, that worked out so they're the same. Cool. Fight, catch, switch, run.
Nice.
All right. And we're kind of getting into the end of, this particular session. So let's go ahead and stitch everything together. And tomorrow we can actually make these buttons start doing things. But for now, we're going to go ahead and change this create battle menu back to call start battle. And I'm going to queue, as part of this last queue story part, I'm going to call this create battle menu. So it's going to show up at the same time that we create, that Donutso is going to show up. So let's watch. Cool. And we've got a battle menu starting.
So which?
So do we want to do selection? I can probably do that pretty quick.
Yeah, it's basically like the map we did, right? Or are you going to do it a different way?
I'm probably just gonna. Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like it's gonna be a lot if I store the data on each one.
Mm-hmm.
So I might just hard code it.
Okay. 9 minutes.
All right. Let's go. So I'm gonna create a variable to make sure that we know that the battle menu exists, and that's gonna be battle menu is open. And when we create this, we're going to go ahead and set battle menu is open to be true. And now we're going to bring out some button handlers. So this will be fun. Let's go ahead and make 4, which are going to be all our directions. So we'll change this one to be left, this one to be right, this one to be up, and this one to be down. And we're going to create another variable now, and that variable is going to be selected menu item. And by default, we're going to set selected menu item to be our fight menu item.
Gotta fight.
All right, now for each of our menu items, there are 2 places you can go, 2 directions you can press. So for fight, you can press right to go to catch, or you can press down to go to switch. For switch, you can press up to go to fight, and right to go to run, and so on and so forth. So the easiest way that I can think of to kind of do that is to just hard code it. But I'm going to put this in a function, though, because we're going to be using left, right, up, and down probably elsewhere in our game. This is just one kind of part of our game, the battle menu. We're also going to be walking around and catching things. So, I don't want to make sure that I crowd these handlers too much, because you can only have one for each button. So I'm going to make a function, and it's going to be called move battle menu selection. And whoa, too many T's. And it's going to take in a number that's going to be direction. And now I'm going to go into this logic, and I'm going to call the move battle selection for each of my directions. So I have a convention that I always use, which you can feel free to make up your own convention. This is what we're going to be using in this game, which is that up is 0, right is 1, down is 2, and left is 3. And that is just the compass directions in clockwise order. So up is 0, then we go to right, down, left. All right. So I'm going to create an if statement to go over, our various directions. So that's 4 cases because we have 4 different ones. We're going to drag out an equals block. Oh man, we're getting down to the wire now.
You can do it. You have a mouse now.
No, actually, I don't. I'm using a trackpad again.
Oh no.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Okay. So if direction is 0, that means it's up. If we're up, we're either on run, which is on our bottom right, or switch, which is on our bottom left. So that's easy to do. We can just go into this if. We're going to drag it in here. We're going to have an equals. And then we're going to use that variable I created, the selected menu item. I'm going to say if the selected menu item is, and then for the variable, we're going to do the switch menu item. Then we want to set the selected menu item to be fight, because fight is right above switch.
How can you remember this? I already forgot. It is underneath it, so yeah.
It's because there is a certain monster catching game that I have modeled these after, and I've played a lot of hours of it. All right.
We probably need that to be else. Yeah.
Yeah. So it needs to be an else if, because there is the case where we're in the top row, and so then the up button should do nothing. So I'm going to say set selected menu item. If selected menu item is equal to the run menu item.
That's new.
Oh, nope, that's the new item. I'm going to do item. Then we want to set it to be catch, because catch is above run. Where is catch?
It starts with C.
I know, it's alphabetizing. I forget every time. Okay. So now let's go ahead and do the opposite for when we press down. So that down is 2, if we remember correctly. Down, 2. So I'm going to change this to be the fight. Oh, whoops. Wrong one. All right. Going to change switch to be fight, and fight to be switch, and run to be catch, and catch to be run, because it's the opposite. All right. Now let's go ahead and do 1. 1 is right. So if the selected menu item is fight, the one to the right of fight is catch. So let's go ahead and change this one to be okay. Fight goes there, catch goes there. All right, so if the selected menu item is switch, then we want it to be run. And cool, that one's already set up for me. And now let's do the opposite. So if the selected menu item is catch, it's popping them out where I can't get them.
Oh, nice.
There we go. All right, so that's setting our variable, but that's not super helpful. We want it to actually show up in the menu when we do this. So now we need to kind of indicate which one's highlighted. And because I don't have much time, I'm just going to kind of do this in an easy way. I'm going to create a variable. It's called cursor. So this is like our map game. And I'm going to set the cursor image to be Donuts' little brother.
Is that just donut?
Yes. And we're going to set its position to be next to the selected menu item so that we can test this out. So let's go ahead and drag out the set. We're going to set the right for the cursor to be the selected menu items left. So we'll go and get the left. Oh, and we might go a few minutes over. I hope no one's after us. And then we're going to set the Y to be the same.
Oh, it's just us today.
All right, cool. and I'm going to take this cursor and I'm going to create it as part of the battle menu so that we don't create a new one every single time we press a button. All right, and hopefully this should all work, and we can just test it out real quick.
Oh, nice.
Cool. Yeah. So that works perfectly. The only thing that's kind of off is that it's wrong in the first place when we create the battle menu. But because this is just kind of here as a example, I think I might just leave that bug now. You know.
It's cute though. Right. I like the idea of a dessert themed cursor.
Yeah. So I think that's it for us. Remember, tune in for the rest of the week where we're going to be making the rest of this game, including an overworld where you walk around, random encounters, and a bunch of Sucromon that you can encounter instead of just 2. Plus, also, you know, being able to actual battle and stuff. That's important too.
Big week.
Yeah, big week. But it's going to be worth it. And if it takes more than this week, we'll do next week too.
Whatever we have to do to get the Sucromon.
Yes. So I'm Richard, at Richard on the forum.
I'm Joey, at JWonderl on the forum.
And I'm Vivian, at Live Cheerful on the forum.
Thank you.
And thank you so much. Yeah.